Good morning, boys and girls. Thank you so much for being here. My name is Don. The channel is Adventures of the Broken Retired. Uh, Thanks for showing up. Thanks for being here. Giving me something to do, tell these stories. Uh, Myself and my friend, the Reckless Remote Elmer, will be telling you another story here today. Um, you know, children are really horrible people for the most part. I know there's good ones out there, especially yours. But for the most part, children are horrible people. And I can say that because I was a children at one time, believe it or not. There was a time when this big old fat gray hairy mug was not a big old fat gray hairy mug. But I was a young guy. I think it was around my 11th or 12th birthday. I'm not sure. Might have been, I don't think it was 13. I think 13. Let's say it was around 12th birthday. Or maybe it was Christmas. It was probably Christmas. I got a brand new shiny red Huffy Dragster 3 Stingray bicycle. Had a big tall sissy bar in the back and the banana seat. Had a shift lever down here with 3 speeds, the big handlebars, and had a racing slick on the back, a cheater slick on the back. It was a fantastic bicycle. And I rode that bicycle quite a bit. And this story is about one day when I was riding that bicycle. Now, the reason I preface this story by saying children are horrible things is because I was a little brother, as I've mentioned several times. I'm still a little brother, although I'm way bigger than my big brother is physically. I have always idolized my big brother, always. He always seemed smarter than me and more talented than me, and he had things that I wish I had, and he had talents I wish I had. He had more structure in his life. He was able to reach goals, I guess, set goals and reach goals better than I could. He was better with money than I am. I always idolized him, always. When we were growing up as kids, my parents came over from England in the early 50s, and we only had one other relative in the United States. It was my mother's brother and my 2 cousins, Jeannie and Gerald. They lived 10 houses down the street from us for most of my life. In this particular case, they lived a little ways away in a little town called Manchester. Now, we were living in Canandaigua, and they were living in Manchester. And I guess there's about probably 7 miles between the 2 towns. But for whatever reason, we rarely ever got together as a family. We just, a couple times a year was about it. July 4th and Thanksgiving, or July 4th and Christmas, maybe. I guess this was probably around July 4th when Jeannie and Gerald and my aunt and uncle from Manchester came to my parents' house in Canandaigua. And I don't know, for whatever reason. Also, for whatever reason, Roger, my brother, and my cousin Gerald decided to take off on bicycles to go for a bicycle ride. Well, I was little brother who couldn't keep his nose out of big brother's business and had to follow along. I was riding my Dragster 3, and they pedaled as hard and fast as they could, but they couldn't get away from me. I still followed. They'd be a pretty good piece ahead of me. I'd still be just pedaling my brains out. And they're hollering back, go away, go home. We're going to tell mom, da-da-da-da-da. But being a little brother, I just had to stay with it. And we ended up riding the bicycles from my parents' house in Canandaigua back over to where Gerald lived in Manchester. And we went into the back porch at the house. I caught up to him, went into the back porch at the house. And the reason that they had come from Canandaigua back to Manchester was because evidently Gerald had a pack of cigarettes hidden in the storage building behind the house. Or in the back of the house, a storage room in the back of the house. And they had ridden their bicycles from Canandaigua back to Manchester so they could smoke a cigarette because that's where Gerald had them. And of course, me being there, made me part of the crime as well. So Gerald and my brother told me that seeing how I had followed them without permission, they didn't want me to come, they didn't want me to know, they wanted me to go away, they didn't want me around, they couldn't stand me. I was understandable, I was little brother. But because I had done all that, the only way that they could make sure that I never tell mom about smoking those cigarettes was if I smoked one too. So they didn't, I'm not going to say they made me smoke a cigarette, because even if they hadn't said it, I wanted to be like him, so I'd have done it anyway. But they said, you got to smoke one too, that way you can't tell. And I did. So I was probably 12 years old. I don't know. Smoked the first cigarette. That was the first cigarette I ever smoked. Now, I'm going to tell you a little sideline into this while we're at it that goes along with it. I used to really like late night television. Not just because of Johnny Carson, because I was a big Johnny Carson fan. I loved watching Johnny Carson, and I still to this day will bring up YouTube videos on the original Johnny Carson show, Tonight with Johnny Carson, The Tonight Show with Johnny Carson. Johnny Carson was, I've always likened his wit and physical motions, actions. I've often likened him to my dad. If there was anybody that I would compare him to, I would compare him to my father. But I used to love that. But I'll tell you what else I loved. I loved watching the old movies. Hang on just one second. I loved watching the old movies that would come on late at night. The old B-horror movies were always fantastic. If I remember correctly, there was a Saturday night television show on called The House on Haunted Hill, I think is what it was called, which had a great beginning because it was a model, and I loved models. But I also loved all the Rat Pack movies. Now, if you're of what I'll call the keyboard generation, you hear Rat Pack, you think I'm saying Brat Pack, and you think of all those guys. That's not who I'm talking about. The original Brat Pack, Peter Lorre, Sammy Davis Jr., Johnny Carson, Dean Martin, Frank Sinatra, those guys. They called themselves the Rat Pack. And what these guys did all the time was drink and smoke. And I wanted to be just like those guys in the Rat Pack. I wanted to, I mean, those guys were just living the life, okay? They were just absolutely living the life. They had all the money, they had all the fame. They never really had to do anything, act in a movie. To me, acting in a movie was just, I've never done it, so I can't comment on exactly what it's like. But I can say that at that point in my life, I looked at it as something that would have been pretty simple to do. Just act like somebody. And they had they just had all the glory, you know. And I really wanted to be like them. I thought drinking all day would be a good thing. Waking up in the morning and having a drink, oh yeah, that's how you live, right? And smoking cigarettes like crazy. Johnny Carson used to smoke too. Johnny Carson was part of the Rat Pack, and he would smoke on his television show. He would smoke while he was doing the show. So smoking was something that was going to be in my life anyway. Now I know, because my brother told me recently that he still carries an incredible amount of guilt from that day, and I assured him the guilt wasn't for him to be concerned with, because it was my choice. First of all, I didn't have to follow him. Second of all, even though they told me I had to do it, I didn't have to do it. Third of all, it was just a matter of time before it happened anyway. So I had never held any animosity towards my brother. I'm at 11 minutes. I'm going to break this up into 2 parts. This is Don with Adventures of the Broken Retired, storytelling time. Thank you very much for being here. Thank you for your subscriptions. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. And don't forget to hit the notification bell so that you know when the video, all that kind of good stuff. All right, Elmer, let's take a break here, and we'll bring on part 2. Part 2.